Frankenstein. I am the CEO of ISS Group. I do appreciate everybody taking the time to attend today's webinar. I am joined by my partner, Frank Salisi, who is the Vice President of R&D at ISS Group. I'll be handling the beginning of the webinar. I'll be doing a very brief PowerPoint overview, which should take no more than 10 minutes, so please bear with me on that. I think it's important to go through some basics. And then we'll be jumping right into the iPurchase demonstration, and then I'll be handing over the controls to Frank, who will be showing us the new mobile interface that we're very excited about. So without further ado, let me begin. Taking time into consideration here, we have a limited amount of time for today's webinar. So instead of going through a long story about who ISS Group is and our solutions and things like this, I would encourage anybody on this presentation today to visit our website at www.issgroup.net, and you'll be able to read all about us and our solutions. So I thought the first place to start here was to talk about what we call ART. ART stands for Advanced Approval Routing Technology. Okay? And ART is really the heart of all of our solutions, including our iPurchase solution. So I realize this is a busy slide, and I do want to walk through it. I think it's very, very important for everybody to understand the way this works. So we read the QAD tables in real time. So there is no data replication, there's no batch and load, there's no extracting of data out of QAD. All the master file data, including the vendor master file, customer, item, generalized codes, master comments, CL accounts, etc., that all continues to be maintained inside of QAD. And we read the tables in real time. So the way this works is a purchase order requisition is created. There are a number of ways to create a purchase order requisition. We'll cover a few of them in today's demonstration. The PO requisitions are stored in a separate progress database. So iPurchase is written in the same technology as QAD. That's progress technology. And the only data that we store outside of the QAD database itself are some configuration data and the actual PO requisitions themselves. Once a PO requisition has been entered, it's submitted for approval. And that's when it goes into our approval routing engine. Emails, notifications are sent out, text message notifications are sent out to the appropriate people for approval. And then upon final approval, a QAD purchase order is created in real time within QAD as if you were using the QAD PO maintenance program. So that's how it works. Okay? So that's very, very important. We're going to talk a little bit more about ART right now. So ART stands for Advanced Approval Routing Technology. This is technology that we have developed at ISS Group. And what's most important is, of course, what I have here in big, bold, red letters, is that you, the end user organization, will create what we call configurable rules. The rules can be created based on any and all of the data within the PO requisition. So we're going to talk a lot more about today. And there can be an unlimited number of rules created. So you will create the rules. There's no programming required. We have a point-and-click rules configurator, which we will, of course, show you today. And based on the rules, the approval hierarchy and workflow is created upon submittal of the PO requisition. Okay? So we're going to talk a lot more about that today. Now, there are a lot more features as part of the Advanced Approval Routing Technology, and we're going to talk about all of these features as we go through the demonstration. So what's a rule? A rule basically is a Boolean condition using and ors that work together to determine the list of people or groups that need to review, change, and approve a PO requisition. So an example of a very simple rule would be all PO recs greater than $10,000, either the CEO or the CFO need to approve the rec. Very, very, very simple rule. But rules could also be very complicated, such as all PO recs between 1,000 and 25,000 for the following departments, for the following plants being shipped UPS or FedEx, or Sam, Jane, John, and someone from the accounting department needs to approve. So this is just an example of a rule, okay, that would be reviewed upon submittal of the requisition to determine who needs to be part of the approval hierarchy. So rules could be very simple, rules can be very complicated, okay? And we have clients that have, of course, both. So that's very important to understand that this technology here, this routing and workflow technology, is really at the heart of iPurchase. So what is iPurchase? iPurchase is what we call an indirect spend management solution. This is fancy for saying PO rec management. Okay? It's for creating electronic purchase order requisitions for routing and approval. It uses the ART technology for workflow. At the end of the approval process, a QAD purchase order is created. And there are a number of ways, as I mentioned, to create a PO requisition. One of them is called a punch-out, and we will demonstrate that to you today. Right? And there are many other advanced features of iPurchase. Some of them, of course, we will review today, such as the purchasing analytics, as well as mobile functionality. Now, in 2015, we're very excited to be offering a bunch of new features inside of iPurchase. The new mobile interface, which we'll be looking at today. I'll be showing you what an email looks like and the ability to approve or reject a requisition directly from the email. We now offer text message alerts. So not only do we send out emails, but we send text messages out to a mobile device. We offer blanket POs. We have enhanced our rules maintenance program for it to be more graphical user interface. We'll show you a little bit of that today. And we did a bunch of enhancements to the rec inquiry and graphing capabilities of iPurchase, the multilingual capabilities of iPurchase. We are offering requisition archiving now, the ability to consolidate requisitions into a single PO. That's been a requirement that's been asked of us for a number of years now, to be able to combine requisitions into a single PO so the supplier only has to make one shipment and you, the end user, saves on freight costs. A whole bunch of additional configuration settings. We now interface with social media, and we also are interfacing with Microsoft Link, if any of you use Microsoft Link, for presence and instant messaging chat. We're not going to be reviewing all of these today. There simply is not enough time. But that's why I wanted to show it to you in a PowerPoint slide. And of course, I'll be sending this presentation out to all attendees of today's webinar, so you have a list of this as well. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, we're going to start here. I skipped the login. Okay, again, for time considerations, I wanted to skip a few things here. So we're starting in what's called the requisition workbench. So this is where you would actually create a PO requisition. And as I said, there are multiple ways to create a PO requisition. One of the ways is simply the old-fashioned way, where you would key in header information. So you would key in the vendor or supplier. And again, this is coming directly out of QAD. So this data that you see here is coming right out of QAD. Okay? You have an entry date, you have the need date, and you have something called requisition type. So you can see there are different types of requisitions. This is a user-defined list Okay, so you can create as many different requisition types as you'd like. We're going to use CapEx at the moment. This requisition has not yet been submitted for approval. I took the liberty of entering 2 line items in the requisition. All right? And I'm going to show you why I did that in a minute. But before I do that, I'm going to show you some of the other header tabs. So here is some of the header information. We then also have the ability to have notes, both internal notes as well as external notes. Internal notes will not be sent to the supplier with the PO. External notes will be sent to the supplier with the purchase order. We also have the ability to attach documents, an unlimited number of documents, both internal and external. So similar to the notes, if you have an internal document, that attachment or note, that document will not be sent with the PO to the supplier, but you could also have external documents. Maybe the supplier sent you a spec, or maybe they sent you a quote, and you want to attach that document to the PO, you can do that. Unlimited number of attachments to the requisition and purchase order. And this is all at the header level. The same tabs are available at the line item level, and we're going to get into that in a minute. So these are notes and attachments. We also use QAD master comments, so you can attach an unlimited number of master comments to a requisition. Most clients use that for purchase order terms and conditions. Okay? So again, this is all maintained. So I went in here and typed in test, did a search. All this is maintained inside of QAD. And you can simply add these master comments to the rec, or I can take them off of the requisition. Simple as that. Based on the data that I have in this requisition and the rules that I have set up, this is the current approval hierarchy for this requisition. Now you'll notice that I am currently in what's called approval simulation mode. This requisition has not yet been submitted for approval. So we offer what's called approval simulation. This is a configuration setting. You do not need to show your end users the simulation, but based on the rules and the data in the requisition, these are the people that would have to approve this requisition. Some of our clients don't want to show who's going to need to approve a requisition to the person or the originator of the requisition, because as you might imagine, people try to get around the system, and if they see that they're entering a requisition that's going to make its way all the way up maybe to the CFO, what some people will do is they will split that requisition into multiple requisitions, which will change the dollar amount of the requisition and subsequently the approval hierarchy. So some clients want to show the simulation, some clients don't want to show the simulation. That's entirely up to you. That is one out of almost 300 configuration settings. Okay? So we have lots and lots of configuration settings. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make some changes now to the line items, and you're going to see this approval hierarchy change. So let's go into the line item number 1. Okay? And you'll notice here that I have tabs. Okay, so here is the information on line number 1. I'm going to be ordering a microscope. This is an MRO item. So we handle both MRO as well as inventory items. Okay, MRO items will be treated as memo items within QAD, okay, on a purchase order. And of course, an inventory item is set up in the QAD inventory master file. But you could also have line notes, similar to header notes. You have internal and external notes. You also can have attachments, the same as the header. You could also have master comments. So all the things that we looked at on the header are also available on a line item basis. I'm simply going to change the price or the cost here from $2,000 to $25,000. I'm going to save and close it. What that did is it changed the total rec from 4,000 to 27,000. And what you see happen here is a new person that added to this requisition approval hierarchy. I'm going to just hit this tab over here called Approval Maintenance. So while we look at this routing, I'm also going to show you the rules and how this is all working. So we have two different rules maintenance programs. One we call the Simple Rules Maintenance Program. One is for more complicated rules, and I'm going to show you both in a minute. So some of the rules that are working at the moment are this rule here says if it's a CapEx request and the rec is between 0 and whatever this number is, it's a big number, 9,999,000 or whatever this number is, insert Robert Y at level 100 into the routing. So if we go back and we see at level 100, Robert Y, now I'm showing his title. Typically in a live implementation, these would be people's names, and you would see obviously his Robert Y's name here. But for demo purposes, I'm showing the titles. So Robert Y, or the R&D director, was inserted at level 100. And these are user-defined levels, so you can insert people anywhere in the approval hierarchy. Okay, so Robert Y was inserted at level 100 due to this rule. If the rec is a CapEx request and the dollar amount is between 0 and this number, insert Robert. The next person, Trey, says insert Trey at level 200 if it's a CapEx request, but the rec is between 25,000 and this number. And so when we increase the dollar amount from 4,000 to 27,000, Trey was inserted in the hierarchy. Okay? And again, Trey's title is Senior Director. So again, typically Trey's name would be here instead of his title. But these rules are what are acting at the moment to insert into this approval hierarchy. Now this is what's called our simple rules maintenance. What we have done is we've identified a bunch of data fields, the originator, the QAD domain, the rec type, the header site, the line site, the department and cost center, et cetera, et cetera. These fields typically are used by most of our clients to create rules. So what we did is we created a very simple rules maintenance program to say, okay, just for these fields, insert data that you want in a rule. Asterisk means anything. And this is only using and conditions. So if the originator is anybody and the domain is anything and it's a CapEx request and. So these are all and conditions. If you need to use or conditions as well, we need to look at the other rules program. And we're going to do that in a minute. But before I do that, I'm going to go back here. And I'm going to change now the second line item from 2,000 to 25,000 again. And I'm going to save and close it. And now that changed my total from 27 to 50. And you'll notice two more people were added to the approval hierarchy. If I go into my rules maintenance and I look, I see here, well, Vince and Bill H. will both be inserted at level 300 if it's a CapEx request, and the minimum amount is 50,000. Okay, so that's why they were inserted. These two rules here. So it was very, very simple to set up. All we have to do is insert the dollar amount and CapEx request, and these folks here were inserted in this hierarchy. Okay. Now let me explain what we got going on here. This is an example of both sequential as well as simultaneous approvals. So based on this level, the R&D director is going to be notified first. So once this is submitted for approval, an email will go out to the R&D director requesting approval. Okay? So I have an example here of what the email looks like. So this is an example of the email. Okay? So this is exactly what the email looks like. So we actually show a printout. Let me make this bigger. A printout of the PO requisition right within the email. So this is not an attachment. This is right within the email. And you see the header information here. You see the line item information. And you see the approval hierarchy right within the email. Right from the email, I can do a few things. I can view, I can approve, or I can reject. If I hit view, that will take me into the iPurchase application. Right? So that will take me here. Okay? And then I can look at whatever I'd like to look at, just as if I'm using the iPurchase application. Okay? But I don't need to do that. I can approve or reject this PO rec right from this email. So I do not need to go into iPurchase to approve or reject a PO requisition. I can do that right from my browser, or I can do that right from my mobile device. So recognize iPurchase is a 100% web-based application, and Frank is going to show us that, and you can approve or reject right from your mobile device. Right. Once the R&D director approves, an email will go out to the next person at the 200 level. Okay? If the R&D director rejects the requisition, it will never make it to level 200. Right? All the way up until the time this requisition is fully approved, the originator can retract the requisition, make changes, and resubmit it for approval. I've done that here on this requisition, just to show you that what we do is we keep track of all approval attempts. So this requisition can be retracted, changed, and resubmitted for approval an unlimited number of times. We keep track of all approval attempts. And so what you see here is this was retracted by Frank. So I'm logged in as Frank. And it shows my approval attempt number 1 was retracted. And then I resubmitted it. And then I have approval attempt number 2, which was retracted, resubmitted. And now I am in approval attempt number 3, which has not yet been submitted. Okay? And I'm going to submit it in a minute. So that's sequential. Once senior director or this person, Trey, approves, an email will go out to the next 2 people because they're at the same level. We call that simultaneous approvals. So this is an example of sequential or in parallel, and this is an example of sequential. Both of these people will be notified at the same time that there is a requisition outstanding for their approval. Either one of these people could go into the requisition and review or reject it in any order. It doesn't matter who goes in. Just because they're listed in this sequence doesn't mean they need to go into the requisition in this sequence. This is different. These people will need to go in this sequence, and this person won't even be notified until this person approves. But once this person approves, both of these people will be notified. To move on, once both of these people approve, it will then go to the finance group. A group is nothing more than a group of users. So we have Jim Bird and we have Alex Chen. Those are 2 users identified in the finance group. Okay, so you can of course set up a finance group, a human resources group, a plant group, as many groups as you'd like, and you assign users to those groups. What happens is all the users in the group will be notified at the same time, but only one person within the group needs to approve or reject. So that's different than the simultaneous, where both people need to either approve or reject. Here, only one person in the group. And what you see here is a sailboat. That designates Alex Chen is out of the office, and Bill Copps has been assigned his designee. So in this case, Jim, Alex, and Bill will all be notified that there is a requisition outstanding for approval, and Jim and Alex and Bill can all go into the requisition and approve or reject. And once it gets past the finance group, it ends up typically at a buyer. Okay, this is again up to you, the end user organization. Most of our clients have the buyer as the last person to approve or eyeball the requisition prior to a purchase order being cut. It's purely a policy decision, right? But most of our clients do that. That's all that is. So I'm going to submit this now for approval. Okay, so change the status from not submitted to pending. If I look at it now, approval history, you'll see now I'm not in simulation mode anymore. I am now in approval attempt number 3. Okay, so I showed you 1 and 2. If I just scroll down, there's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. Now, because I'm logged in as Frank, and I am an administrator, I have some security privileges that typically would not be given out to all your end users, such as the ability to add an approver. So I can add an approver right here to this hierarchy. So here are users that are authorized to use iPurchase, and I can now add a user to this approver hierarchy. I can also remove. Okay? So I can remove anybody on this approval hierarchy. Now again, these are secured features that you will only give out to the appropriate people. I also have something called emergency approval. So as an example, you may have a requisition that was created and you need to get it turned into a purchase order sooner rather than later. And maybe somebody in the approval hierarchy is out of the office, as we noticed here. All right, maybe Alex is out of the office, but you need to get this through. You have a piece of machinery that's down in the plant. You've got to get a PO cut for a spare part. You can't wait for it to go through the approval cycle. You can hit the emergency approval, and this will bypass all of the people in the approval hierarchy and create a QAD purchase order. All of the people will be notified that that happened. So we're going to do that. We're going to hit emergency approval. We're going to say OK. And you see PO 4007 was created. Right? If I go into my approval history, you'll see that they were all approved. And all of these people are being sent emails that Frank Salisi did an emergency approval for this requisition. Right? And they'll have the full details, just as I showed you. They'll have the full details, right, of what the requisition looked like. Right? And this is what a print. Now, you may be using your own PO or print software. Okay? We have a relationship with Minisoft, so if you're not using any print software, we can certainly introduce you to Minisoft. You may be using the QAD report writer. Okay? We also have our own custom print that's part of iPurchase. So there's a number of ways that you can create a fancy-looking or custom PO print The next thing I want to show is something called punch-outs. So as I said, there's a number of ways to create a PO requisition. One is to type it in, okay? And I don't think we have time today to go through every single data field, okay? But there's a whole bunch of data fields, both the header and line level, including full accounting data. Okay? So this is QAD's cost center, right? Account, sub-account. Okay? So this is all tightly, this is QAD's project. We do full project budgeting. We tied into QAD's projects. So this is QAD's projects here. But I want to do a punch out. So a punch out is when a user wants to create a PO requisition, but they want to use a supplier's website to do that, to shop. So here are some of the vendors. This is not a complete list, but here are some of the vendors that we have worked with to create punch out capability. Most of the large vendors or suppliers offer punch out capability these days. There's no programming required in iPurchase to make punch outs work. It's purely a configuration setting. So if a supplier offers punch out capability and you want to use punch out capability, it's just a matter of configuring it. We're going to use CDW as our example here. So I'm an end user. I want to create a requisition within iPurchase. So I am punching out to the CDW website. So no different than if I simply went to my browser and I went to the CDW website. The only difference is that CDW recognizes that I'm a B2B user. So there's a handshake done behind the scenes. And I will be offered what's called contract pricing. So I will not be given list or retail pricing. I'm going to be given contract pricing, and that's pricing that was set up by your buyer with the supplier. So I'm logged in as John Crane. That happens to be one of our clients. So CDW knows that I'm a user from John Crane, okay? And they're going to be offering me down contract pricing. So let's just go shopping here. All right. Now, I am not creating a requisition, a purchase order. I'm creating a requisition. So all I'm doing is using the CDW's website to shop. So let's buy this. So add that to the cart, okay? And I'll also add a warranty to the cart. Add items to the cart. Okay, so I have 2 items now in my cart, and now I want to check out. Now, typically, when you're shopping at home and you need to check out, at this time you would be asked for credit card information. But because I am a punch-out shopper and CDW recognizes that I'm a B2B user, they offer me this screen instead. And I will simply transfer my shopping cart, and that will transfer the data back into iPurchase and create the PO requisition for me. Now, it's not yet been submitted for approval. So I went to my approval history. Okay, you see I'm in simulation mode. You see just the same way, but you notice it's different here. Here I have the R&D at 100. I have a buyer at 900. I have 500. So different rules are applying to this requisition. Right? So you can see how fast you can actually create a PO rec using punch-outs. The advantage of using punch-outs is I'm getting contract pricing. I am getting current descriptive information coming right out of the supplier's website. I'm also getting what's called the UNSPSC code. That stands for the United Nations Special Product and Services Code. That's an 8-position code. Okay, it's a commodity code. It's a smart code. Each 2 positions has meaning. Okay, and I'm going to show you in a minute how that code can be used for performing purchasing analytics. Okay, well, you also use it for shopping in our catalog. So if a supplier does not offer punch-out capability, and many smaller suppliers do not, we offer full catalog management capability. So if you get your supplier to send you an electronic catalog, and that's nothing more than an Excel spreadsheet in the right format, and we would, of course, give you that format, we allow you to load that catalog into iPurchase, and you can shop against that catalog in a very e-commerce-like shopping experience, very similar to a punch-out. So that's the third way, and I'm not going to go through catalogs today because we simply don't have enough time, but that's the third way to shop and create requisitions in iPurchase. The first way is the manual, old-fashioned way. You're typing in the data. The second way is by using punch-outs, and the third way is by using catalogs. There actually is a fourth way, which we really haven't discussed, and that's importing requisitions. We have a client such as Carlisle Brake and Friction. They used to be Wellman Products out of Ohio. They were purchased by Carlisle. They use a third-party solution called Replenishment Plus to create PO requisitions for direct material. That's their production material. They're, of course, a QAD user, but they're not using the QAD MRP functionality. They're using a third-party solution to create recs for their, again, production material, and we import those recs into iPurchase, route them for approval as if they were created in iPurchase for a non-production item, and then create the QAD purchase order. So that's actually a fourth way to create recs and purchase orders using iPurchase. I'm going to go into rec inquiry here and show you. This is our rec inquiry screen. I'm going to remove the filter. Now, one of the major differences between iPurchase and the QAD GRS module is that once a requisition turns into a purchase order, the requisition goes away in QAD. It does not go away in iPurchase. We keep requisitions indefinitely until you decide to archive. We have full archiving capability, but of course, disk space is relatively inexpensive these days, so we encourage you to keep your PO recs for as long as you can, and there's reasons for that. You can do inquiry into those requisitions. All of these data fields at the top here are search criteria. You can use any and all of this data, okay, to search for requisitions. So I can search for just a specific supplier or a specific item or maybe a project or the UNSPSC code we mentioned, okay, a few minutes ago, or any of this data, okay? And I can use it in combination as well. I can also set up predefined views. Okay, so I can have my own personal views, and this is a view, is what we call this here, or I can have system-wide views. I can set up an unlimited number of personal views or system-wide views. So I don't have to come in here and re-enter search criteria for a specific view. I can create it once, and then I have it here, right? So that's what that's all about. Once I get the data I'm looking for, I can download it into Excel. I can graph it. So if I hit the graph button as an example, right, this is showing me my purchase spend by supplier. Right? Here's a legend of what is in this graph. But I want to go down and show it by UNSPSC code. So again, UNSPSC code is an 8-position smart code that was created by the United Nations to categorize products. So there are something like 40,000 different UNSPSC codes that all the products that are manufactured in this world fit into that category structure. Okay? There's nothing that you, the end user, needs to do. These UNSPSC codes have already been defined. That table already comes with iPurchase. If you create requisitions either via punch-out or via catalog, the UNSPSC code is automatically attached to the line items in the requisitions. There's nothing that you need to do. And then you can perform analytics. So what you see here is this is the first 2 positions of that 8-position code. And that's showing us here that we're spending a whole lot of money in material handling and conditioning. Right? That's code 24. And again, I go over here, it shows the same thing, $4.6 million. If I click on that, it shows me the next 2 positions. So now 24 is consistent across all 4, but now it shows me the next 2, 10, 11, 12, 14. So it shows me within material and handling, I'm spending the money in containers and storage versus packing material. And I can continue to drill down. Now you see 6 positions. And I can continue to drill. And now you see the full 8 positions. You see most of the money is being spent on paper bags versus plastic bags. And if I continue to drill down, it'll show me that those paper bags are being spent across 3 different suppliers. That's very important information. And we have clients that have told us that they have items where they purchase from up to 14 different suppliers. Right? So because they're a distributed organization, they may have plants scattered all over the country. They are buying the same item from many different suppliers. The whole idea is to try to consolidate your spend across fewer suppliers. You get economies of scale, and of course you have better negotiating power when you're buying from less suppliers. So you can utilize the purchasing analytics within iPurchase to see that, as I just showed you. And here we're looking at 3 different suppliers for this UNSPSC code. So that's how UNSP is used. And then, of course, I can go in and look at it by month. I can look at it by department, by QAD domain. There's a whole lot of ways I can look at that spend data. The last thing I want to show you here, if I remove the filter and I go back, is what I call process metrics. So we were just looking at spend analytics. What this is metrics about the actual process itself. So what you see here is Frank Salisi has created a whole bunch of requisitions. Obviously, we're always logging in as Frank to create requisitions. So this is activity by originator. And what this is showing is Frank has created about 750 PO requisitions, and it takes on the average a little over 9 hours for one of Frank's requisitions to make it through the approval process, as opposed to this person, Scott Carpence, where it takes about 3.5 hours for Scott's requisitions to get through the approval process. The question is why? Why does it take so long for Frank's recs to get through, but it takes only 3.5 hours, or less than a half hour, for this person's requisitions to get through the approval? Well, maybe Frank isn't entering all the requisition data required, so the approvers are getting hung up. They need Frank to enter more data. Or maybe Frank is entering higher ticket value requisitions. Excuse me. So it takes longer to get through the approval process. These are process metrics. And it allows us to do research to streamline and reduce the requisition cycle. Down here, you're looking at approval activity. So it takes supervisor number 1 about 80 hours on the average to approve a requisition, where it takes Alex about 2 hours to approve a requisition. That's a huge difference. So this person here, whoever supervisor 1 is, and this typically would be a person's name, is sitting on the requisitions. Why is this person holding up the requisitions? Okay? And Again, this affords me the information. I can go talk to this person and say, why does it take you almost 2 weeks to approve a requisition? That's holding up the approval cycle, okay? And the whole idea is to streamline the process and reduce the process cycle time. As an example, one of our clients, Abbott Laboratories, told us that before they implemented iPurchase, it took them almost 2 weeks to get a requisition from creation to purchase order. After implementing iPurchase, and they have between 300 and 400 users of iPurchase, it took them less than 2 days to get a requisition through the approval cycle. So a huge decrease in the what we call cycle time, from 2 weeks to under 2 days. Okay? Huge. And that's what this screen is all about. It's all about process metrics. Right? Different than the purchasing analytics that I showed you on the previous screen. Okay, so I'm going to hand over the controls now to Frank. We have about 10 minutes left. I'm going to hand over to Frank, and Frank is going to show us the new mobile interface. So, Frank?
Thank you, Andy.
You got it.
I'm trying to click on show my screen, but it's not clicking. It's not allowing me to. I think it's the remote control phone software. I'm going to have to turn off the phone software and just do it in the browser.
Yeah, that's fine.
Bear with me, folks. Yeah, that's working much better. Okay, you guys should be seeing my screen now.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to shrink this down to about the size of my phone. So this is a brand new application that we've just rolled out. We've always had a mobile app, but it's always been sort of a baseline, minimal type approach for handheld devices. And the reason behind that was for the BlackBerry compatibility of a few years back. We wanted to make sure it was still compatible with BlackBerries. So we had a very minimal interface when it came to phone. And we did allow you to approve and inquire on requisitions. We've since rolled out a 100% web-based, mobile-friendly application. Okay, and that mobile can be either a phone, an Android, iOS, or Windows phone, or it can also be a tablet. This works very well on tablets as well. And I'll show you a little bit of an example of that at the end. But this would be what the application would look like on your phone. And I'm going to go through the functionality that we've developed so far. And keep in mind, this is the first pass in doing this, so we'll be adding additional functionality as time goes by. This is our home screen. Eventually will be enhanced. Right now, it just has our logo on it. I'm going to walk through the logo, the icons here at the top, to show you what each and every one is. The first check mark icon, this shows us requisitions that are pending our approval. So this is the requisitions in the system that I need to approve or reject. Okay, and right now I'm logged in as Andy. Andy likes to log in as Frank, and Frank likes to log in as Andy. But so I'm logged in as Andy. These are the requisitions that Andy is required to approve. Okay, and I can scroll down, and as I'm scrolling down, I'll eventually get to the bottom, and I can go to the next page and scroll again until I find the one I'm looking for. Okay, so that's what the approval, the check mark icon is. If I click on the contacts icon, the person icon, this shows the requisitions that I have created, that Andy has created. You'll see here Andy's name is listed. The requisitions that I have created. So I can go ahead and click into this now and see the status of that requisition. And we're going to go into a rec towards the end. Another way of finding requisitions is to do a search. So Andy showed you the requisition inquiry screen that we had on the desktop version. But we have all that same capability here on the mobile phone. we have our frequent search fields that we can filter on. So if I started keying a supplier number, I'll get a list of suppliers that match. Andy used CDW as the example. So I can choose CDW, hit search, and it would show me all the requisitions that are in the system for CDW. Okay, if I go back, we clear that out. We can search by rec number, PO number, originator, status. We can search by approver information, what the approver is and what the status of their approval is. We can search by GL accounting information. All the same functionality that's available on a desktop version is available here as far as searching. The next icon is our purchase order inquiry. Here we can look for purchase orders. So I'll leave this blank, but I can search by supplier, PO number, or buyer code. And if I just leave that blank, it'll show me everything. But here it'll show us all of our POs. Okay, so I can print, or I can view the summary information, or I can go ahead and print the PO, and I'll get the full purchase order print. Next thing we have here is punch outs. You can actually do punch outs, so you can requisition via punch out from your phone. So I can jump out into the CDW website, create a requisition right here from my phone. Okay. The next item is our out of office. So if you do go on vacation or if you're homesick, you can simply get on your phone real quick, select an alternate. So I'm out of the office. I'm picking Bob as my alternate to handle my approvals while I'm away. Okay, and I can put in a date and time. On the phone, this actually changes a little bit, where this is a real calendar picker and this is a time picker. If you guys have iPhones or Androids, you probably have seen the date and time pickers that show up on your phone when it's those kind of fields. And Internet Explorer doesn't handle that. So on the phone, this actually works a little bit nicer. So I can put in a start date and time of when I'm away, and an end date and time of when I'm coming back into the office. All right, so I can set myself out. When I come back, I simply clear out of office, and it will take me back into the office. This power button here, that's the log off. Then we have a menu here at the top where we have all the same things that I just walked through, as well as the views that Andy showed you on the requisition inquiry. So I can set up predefined searches, stuff that I search for all the time. I could save those searches off, and then they become menu items here. So this pending my approval is an example. If I click that, it would show me all requisitions that were pending my approval. Approved last week. It would show me requisitions that were approved last week. Okay? So these are just quick filters to find requisitions. I'm going to go back into the pending my approval ones. So these are the requisitions pending my approval. The first thing I want to show you is that if you're on an iPad, and the best way to simulate that is to just stretch my screen, you'll see that the screen changes its shape. And rather than showing stuff vertically, the data will be displayed horizontally to maximize that screen real estate. All right, so this is what an iPad would look like. All the functionality is exactly the same, except it gets displayed differently. I'm going to go back, shrink it down again, back to my phone size, and I'll go ahead and select a requisition to look at. Okay, so I clicked into a rec, and I have 3 tabs: my header, my items, and my approval information. I'm on the header tab. It's showing me my high-level header info, who the supplier is. I can do a requisition print by clicking the printer icon, when the requisition was entered, how much it's for, its current status, and what type of requisition it is. It's an expense. I can drill down here, show my supplier info, and you'll notice here that I have this little icon. This will allow me to contact the supplier. So if I'm on my phone, I could just click and dial the supplier. I can also send text messages. Now, that's not guaranteed to work. This may not be a cell phone, but you can send text messages if it's a cell phone. So here on the mobile, you would assume the mobile would be a cell phone, so you can send a text message. If there was an address, you can actually map. It'll use your phone's GPS and map you a route to go pick the stuff up. And of course, you can also email a supplier by clicking the email icon. All right, so easy ways to communicate with the supplier, as well as any of the users that are on the requisition. So if I needed to contact Frank, I could easily on my phone click the little contact icon, and same thing, call, text, email, just at one click. I could even add Frank to my address book on my phone. Okay. We'll display all of the information that's on a desktop version will also get displayed here on the mobile. So all the different fields that were at the header, the notes, the attachments, that all gets displayed here as well. Okay, so that's our header. We have our line items. On this one, we only have one line, 22-100. We show a snapshot of the important information on that line, and then you can drill into that item and get the GL information if you need to. You can also get the notes, justification, and any attached documents. Okay, let's go back a page. And then we have our approval information. So remember, I clicked into this rec when I was the approver that needed to approve it. So I can approve or reject right from here. If I'm rejecting, it's going to force me to enter a reason or a rejection code as to why I'm rejecting. And this is used for later analytics. Why are all of my recs being rejected? Is there a trend? Maybe we could do some training to make that stop. And I also put in some notes. But I can also view who has so far approved, okay, and who hasn't approved. And I'll just do it this way. It'll be a little easier. Who's approved so far? Who needs to approve? So this is the same view that Andy showed when he was discussing the routing rules. We also show that here. And we show each and every approval attempt. So this was approval attempt number 2, was rerouted by the system. Okay. So I can go ahead and approve and reject right from here when I'm ready. And that takes us right about out of time. So I'm going to stop there and toss this back over to Andy.
Thank you, Frank. That's exciting stuff. Okay, so once again, we're pretty much out of time. I do appreciate everybody taking the hour out today to join us, allow us to show you our iPurchase 2015 release. We will follow up with everybody who attended today's, send you a copy of today's presentation. And of course, if you have any questions at all, feel free to send me an email directly at aweinstein@issgroup.net or at sales@issgroup.net, or feel free to call me directly. Once again, thank you all for attending, and have a wonderful balance of your day.